Word Balloon, celebrating 16 years of excellence for you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. It's a beard-to-beard conversation with my buddy Jeremy Haun. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. Hey, congratulations. This is the very first day you launching your Kickstarter campaign for Haunthology. A beautiful cover. Got a couple of the images here. Already a great pull quote. I saw you put this up. And this is Nathan Ballingrud. Am I saying his name right?
Yes.
What Jeremy Haun has done in Haunthology is take a collection of horror stories, boil off every morsel of fat until all that's left is hard gleaming bone. The sweet moment of friction, which is the true reward, or frisson, I'm not sure, true reward of the horror story. The spike of the fear, the eerie shift, the dreadful revelation. I haven't been this excited and inspired by a horror comic since Emily Carroll's Through the Woods. That's a very nice compliment that Nathan gave you.
Yeah. Nathan Ballingrud is one of my favorite prose writers. He wrote, he's done several collections of short stories that just really kind of, as I read them, got under my skin. And you know, I felt a real, a kinship to the guy. We started talking back and forth a couple of years ago, and I when I first read Wounds, the collection, and this North American Lake Monsters was the one that really caught on with me. And he had the film based on Wounds, and then he had Monsterland, which was a Hulu original series based on his short stories. And I was honored to have him and several other people say such wonderful things about my my little funny book.
All deserved, buddy. I want to, before we play, I want to show everybody your Kickstarter video. Before we start it, though, Mark wanted to let you know he's a day one backer and can't wait to read it.
Yes, thanks so much, Mark. That is, I'm blown away by the support here, man.
Hey, man, that's seriously, it's always amazing, and I can appreciate, I'm sure, how you're feeling. It's nice when the audience lets you know they love what you do, and they got your back. So let's watch this this Kickstarter video that you've made that really does explain the genesis of Haunthology.
I'm Jeremy Haun, and I write and draw comic books. Over the years, I've worked for Marvel and DC Comics, drawing Batman, Batwoman, Captain America and Iron Man, and many more. I've also worked to create my own stories, like The Beauty and the Realm, also The Red Mother. As much as I love telling stories about superheroes that we all know and love, my heart's really in creating my own worlds, telling my own stories. Over the past year and a half, with everything going on in our world, that's become more important than ever. During that time, most of the comics industry went pencils down. Everything shut down. Schedules shifted. Plans had to change. Like so many of us, that was a tough year for me. I went from an overfull schedule to having to reevaluate everything. What I realized was that for me, the thing that keeps me tethered is telling stories, making things. So I did that. I wrote and drew a 3-page short horror story. And it felt really good. I've always been a fan of horror, the way you can take ghosts and monsters and talk about all the things that scare us, the things that are wrong in our world. That short story led to another, and another. I was able to take all the loneliness, isolation, and fear we're feeling and talk about it. I realized that telling my scary stories was basically therapy. That's how Haunthology was born. Haunthology is a collection of just over a year's worth of short stories, all written, drawn, and lettered by me. Over 20 in all. They're personal, but still genre stories filled with monsters and post-apocalyptic landscapes. There's definitely horror in there, but there's also moments of real emotion and whimsy, just like in real life. I've been making comic books for a long time, but Haunthology is absolutely the best thing I've ever done. As of right now, all the stories are completely finished. There's no waiting for this thing. We're printing Haunthology in a beautiful, oversized, deluxe 144-page hardcover. I'm pulling out all the stops to make this as epic as possible. I've also got some amazing special items available, including enamel pins, t-shirts, and most importantly, all of the original artwork from this project. That's right, every single page of original art from Haunthology is available to hang on your walls. We've also got some fantastic stretch goals and upgrades that we'll be unlocking just as soon as we're funded. I'm proud of Haunthology. It helped me through a tough year, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you. Kickstarter is a special place for special projects like Haunthology. You get to actively help bring this project to life, and every bit helps. While you're thinking about Haunthology, please do me a favor. Share this Kickstarter with people that you think might be excited about it. I can't do this project without you. So truly, thank you.
I'm kind of hot. Yeah.
You look good. You look good. I'm just proud of you for changing your shirt. That's all.
Hey, you know, I had one on that I've been wearing for, well, okay, so I got the samples in of all of the Haunthology shirts, and I'm such a sucker for like a really nice soft t-shirt, right? And so, like, you know, you're not supposed to wear a band's not supposed to wear their own shirt, but
Right.
like, you know, I wear my own shirts all the time because I love them. But this shirt is so soft and so perfect that I was like, how many days have I been wearing? Is it 4 days now? I started getting really, really self-conscious. I probably smelled terrible, but
I was gonna say, poor Lori. Jesus.
yeah, you know,
Take a bath.
I've been working a lot,
Dude, honestly, I know. I mean, good Lord, you still have what 30 days ahead of you with the campaign. How many more days? Like, 30 days to go. I'm looking at it right now.
I'm not even. I'm what at 7 hours in now. Yeah, 8 hours.
Chair, that's amazing. Seriously, yeah. I'm gonna show everybody the front page. And by all means, folks, you do want to still back this thing, but it's always a good feeling and a big relief, I'm sure, when you hit your goal. As Jared just said, within 7 hours of the thing being live, and he is already 7,700 and change over. But 315 people have already said to Jared, "No, we like this and we want this," and I think that's fantastic. So congratulations.
I mean, I'm blown away. This project, it was so incredibly personal. It was something that I needed to do for me. You know, there's a thing about it was storytelling. I think you always want to tell a personal story. You always want to connect with an audience. But I was pretty lost during COVID. I think we all were. Let's hit on that. But I think that for me, so much of who I am and what I do is connected to making things. Lori always jokes. She's always talking about it. She's like, you're kind of ridiculous when you're not working. So she's like, you need to be working because you're a pain in the ass whenever, it's just you. So, I think that first month we were so confused and scared and lost. And, we basically drank whiskey and ate a bunch of sourdough bread that we made. I mean, that was really what we did. But I think we were trying to find like, what was the new normal going to be? And we were like, is this a month? Is this 3 months? What is this going to be? And, I did projects around the house. I did things, but something was truly missing. Pencils were down. Projects were put on hold. I needed something. And it was this, I got to talk about all of the things that I was feeling, the emotions that I was going through, and in a very constructive way, as opposed to, I think, just, drinking more scotch.
Well, again, you chose initially. I know you were putting these stories on your Patreon page, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's talk about that.
Well, again, I think that, look, you and I saw each other. Last time that you and I physically saw one another was at what we're now calling the last Comic Con, right? Like at C2E2.
C2E2.
It was a wonderful show. You went out to dinner with Lori and I at a fantastic restaurant.
Amazing place, Jerry. You always know. It's embarrassing that you're in Missouri and the best places in Chicago. The new places in Chicago. I got the old school shit
right up
for you, but exactly, man. It's always like, hey, man, West Loop, and I'm like, okay,
yeah, no,
here we go.
Yeah, I do the time. I do the research. But we were there and we had
Monday night.
Man, this fantastic meal. It was great.
It really
and
was. It's good.
And I don't know. I always love our conversations and the places that they take us. And it was great food, great company. And then, but we were talking about this thing. We were like, I don't know, what's happening. The next day we went and had lunch, and then we were getting a late flight out. It's about 4:00, and it was just terrifying. The stuff we were watching the news in the airport. It was exactly like out of a movie. I mean, it really was, us sitting there going, oh shit. Like, and like, kind of like looking at everybody around you. And like, I went in and washed my hands 1,000 times. We weren't wearing masks yet. Right.
Yep.
And we got home, and everything changed. Everything, but we were going to go, like, the next weekend. I was supposed to be in Seattle, and 2 weeks after that, I was supposed to be in Kansas City. And there, I think that there was this hip thing for a little bit where we were like, introverts, we've been practicing for this our entire lives. And then every one of us introverts were like, shit, even though we've been practicing for this our entire lives, this is horrible. We're not ready.
In the past, it was by choice,
mm-hmm.
and now there was no choice. And no, you couldn't go. Dude, I had that leg infection the year before and was like looking forward to swimming again. They locked down the city. And I had the same attitude of, all right, I just did a year of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to it. But I'm sure everybody had the weird dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the weird COVID dreams? Thank God that ended. But it took a few months.
Yeah.
And they were just the weirdest goddamn dreams in the world. Honestly, I don't know if any of those ended up being stories in Haunthology.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that was the thing. I was able to talk about and let's be real, this is trauma. I mean, this was truly trauma that we were all going through, every one of us dealing with this thing. And I was able to write about those feelings. All of the stories in Haunthology are me talking about loss or fear or loneliness or longing, anger. A lot of, talking about me dealing with my anger and how I found myself responding to things in ways that, I thought that I had broken myself of in my youth, but we were dealing with feelings that we didn't understand. And I wanted to talk about them in healthy ways, because I think that like the reality of it is we can all admit that, like, we understand that we have that precautions are part of our lives. We understand that masks are, you need to wear masks, you need to be cautious, hopefully some of us do. But we went through that. I didn't want to tell stories that were about COVID literally. COVID became monsters in the story. It became post-apocalyptic landscapes. I wanted to talk about isolation, so I told a story about a guy that something terrible was outside and he was trapped in an elevator, and that he didn't know how long he had been in there, kind of thing. But I also think that it gave me an opportunity to then look at things through a healthy way as I was healing and tell stories that were ridiculous or funny or filled with hope. I mean, I literally have a story in there called The Private that is about a guy finding a working toilet after the apocalypse. And his thing is every day he goes to this place because there's a working toilet that somehow still flushes, and there's an entire closet filled with toilet paper, which was pretty much a dream during COVID because we couldn't frickin' find any damn toilet paper. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, you let your mind do what it does and you start telling these stories. And, back to what you initially said was like the weird COVID dreams. I was having insanely weird dreams, but I was also waking up at the exact same time every early morning. No matter when I went to sleep, I would wake up at the exact same time to a sound. And I don't know if the sound was in my head or if it was actually something that I was really hearing, but I was reacting to a sound. And that's a strange thing that was happening.
Sure.
But that became part of my story, is the sound that some of these characters kept waking up to. And, somewhere in there, I think that, this book came out of it and I began to heal a little bit.
But again, honestly, Jared, really, and a lot of us channeled our anxiety, our fear into work. And truly, I really respect and admire the people that did that. And I think of you, and I think of Brubaker and so many others that I've talked to in these 15 or 16 months and how they dealt with it. And listen, the people that were really, for a lack of a better word, paralyzed by this, I get it. I feel absolutely. But it's also like, all right, well, this is a situation I have no control of. What do I have control of? Mm-hmm. And let me channel my energy into that. And that's why I started, doing quadruple amounts of word balloon episodes and got into video and stuff. Yeah. That's why you made Haunthology, and that's why Ed and Sean made the books that they made during it, and everybody else I've been talking to. I was just talking to Carl Kerschel about his Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, and I love the stories. They're really fantastic. And he, he's an old school podcaster. He was podcasting before I was in 2005, which I love.
That's awesome.
And I was asking him regarding how he put his stuff out in terms of doing it as well. His stuff is on his webpage. You can read Charles Christopher for free on his webpage. Mm-hmm. You were putting out Haunthology for your followers on Patreon, and I understand that. Is this your first Kickstarter?
No, this is.
You've done a few before.
Yeah, this is actually my third. I mean, the first one that I did was with the Bad Karma crew, with Clay.
Wow, I forgot that was a Kickstarter.
Yeah,
sure.
B. Claymore, Alex Grecian, and Seth Peck.
Yep,
and a whole slew of brilliant artists.
My volume is on my shelf. Absolutely.
Yeah, we did that, and that was a fantastic thing that we worked on.
That was early on at Kickstarter too.
Mm-hmm.
We actually 2009, 2010.
It's been forever ago.
Yeah.
It's been a decade.
Yeah.
But we did that as a test. I mean, Kickstarter was just starting. I remember Cody Chamberlain had done was it Sweets? Was that what that project was called?
Either that or was it I want to say not Bones. Was it Bones? Or yeah, but I know definitely I remember Cody doing some
Cody
Steve Bryant downstate from me did Athena Voltaire.
Yeah. Those were the first, like we were doing things just to test it out at that point. We're like,
Yeah.
maybe this thing could work. You know, since then it's changed. I think with COVID, it's changed again. I mean, the reality of it is, you know, I think there's something about being left alone to your own devices for 8 months where you're like, you know, the people that my audience, the people that were my patrons on Patreon, that were, you know, fans and friends that I've known from shows, you know, the people that every time I'd have a little art sale, they would hop on and support me. You know, I keep it's since Fast 9 is out, I keep talking about family, right? Like we just have to Vin Diesel the hell out of this. But like the reality of this is it's family at this point. Do I just have to say like it's family? You know, but you know,
too much hair to be Vin Diesel, but all right.
You know, this hair, I look pretty much like him up here, but you know, I think that relationship during COVID, that's the other aspect of this, is that kept me afloat. These, you know, these Zoom calls, the chats with friends, the podcasts or vidcasts that you do, like there is really something about what that allowed us to do that, you know, it was not conventions. It was not what we were used to. It wasn't, no. I mean, you know, but it did something. And you saw people that were financially struggling too, stepping up and saying, I value your work so much that here, you know, here's a couple bucks.
Yeah.
And the difference that makes. I mean, you know, like, you know, you know, you have a Patreon. I have a Patreon.
Yes.
We're doing these things. And I, you know, I believe we've actually even talked about this before, but like the joy that comes from those patrons, the you know, knowing that what a difference those few bucks can make, and me knowing what a difference a few bucks of mine can in turn make to other people that I can support. You know, it's a wonderful process, you know, and with Kickstarter, one of the things that I was realizing too was, I had a need for some kind of content and some kind of connection myself. I was backing more stuff during COVID, you know, than I ever have. I didn't realize I hit whatever is super backer status on Kickstarter, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
But you know, like I've now backed enough stuff that they, you know, they're like, hey, you spent a shit ton of money here. But you know, I love playing cards, especially ones that have a vintage feel or like a funky, you know, like any kind of retro aesthetic to them.
Sure.
I buy the hell out of them. I buy a lot of, you know, like creator-owned comics and various things on there. But like just today, a deck of playing cards came from one of the Kickstarters that I bought. And
oh, that's great.
You know,
that's funny. Chris Irving has been doing either playing cards or trading cards with Hellboy stuff. And yeah, you know, so I'm aware of that. Do you ever, regarding playing cards, do you, because I look for different tchotchkes from casinos and nightclubs and especially old places.
Mm-hmm.
And as everyone can see, I got my American International Pictures t-shirt on. But recently there's a great old, it's not there anymore. There was a New York nightclub that also you'd get dinner there and stuff. It was called Danny's Hideaway.
Okay.
And that was like the hip place for all the TV shows that shot in New York. Like
right.
Sid Caesar, they would do the show live. And then Saturday night, they'd go out and, you know, kibitz and talk about the show.
Right.
Danny's Hideaway and stuff. So I got this giant ashtray, and I don't smoke, but I've watched it many times. And now that is on my stove for my ladles and my spoons when I'm cooking and stuff. So I, you know, and I've seen like the Friars Club. I've seen decks of cards from the Friars Club and other casinos and stuff. Are you looking for stuff like that?
I love that stuff. I am a little hesitant to dive too deep in some of that because it's more like if I go to like estate sales or something like that, I buy old decks and stuff like that. I've had to be really careful.
Those are where the deals are.
Yeah, well, eBay got a little scary for me during COVID a little bit. There's a combination of like really good scotch and eBay during COVID that maybe messed with me a little bit.
Here, I'm just turning my camera off. I'm still there, but I'm gonna reach for something. Hold on 1 second.
I love that I'm the only one on now.
Actually, I meant to. I'm sorry. I meant to just kill my kill my camera, not leave. So I'm gonna stop the. Where's the camera? There it is. Stop camera. All right, I'm still here. Hold on, because I'm gonna reach for what I've been buying on eBay and Amazon and stuff. And I think we've talked about this before. But hang on. All right, I'm back. I've been buying because they're affordable. I was a big Corgi car guy.
Uh-huh.
You remember the Corgi cars?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, those are too expensive.
Sure.
But what I did buy are Hot Wheels size cars, and a lot of them are from TV shows and movies and stuff. So this is the Blues Brothers.
Nice.
Police car.
Uh-huh.
But also I got this is Mad Max's car.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally one, and this was under $10, and I was so glad to get it. It's the Jetsons flying car.
Oh, nice. That's adorable.
So yeah, and I have the Mystery Machine, and I got the red and white Chevy from '57 Chevy from Christine.
Nice.
And yeah, and I mean, and it's funny. People are like, "Did you get the Ghostbusters van?" And I'm like, "No, that's just that doesn't speak to me more than these other movies and TV shows do." And of course, I got a '66 Batmobile.
I was going to say, there's a very specific era. Anybody that knows you well enough knows exactly, what cars.
It's true.
You're going to be going for.
Yeah, I didn't get the DeLorean either from Back to the Future.
Right.
No, I was in college then. I was dating girls. I didn't care about that stuff. But when I was a kid, I wanted the Black Beauty, the Green Hornet car. Stuff, the Batmobile and stuff that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and actually I did buy just and I know what you mean, because literally I spent it was reasonable. It was under $200. It was probably under $150. But I did buy like 20 cars, guaranteed. And one I just bought, and it's from the No Time to Die.
Okay.
And it's an Aston Martin that has bullet holes in it.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So I'm like, all right, sure, because I already had a different Aston Martin. So
one of the things that I do think is that, like, and as comics nerds, and like we've always been very comfortable with the things that we love, right? Like we love nostalgia, we love various things, but I do kind of love that during COVID everybody got a little weirder. Like everybody's like, yeah, by the way, like I don't know, I've been doing this macrame thing, and it's like, okay, like
baking sourdough bread, like everyone's doing their starter dough and everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's like we all sort of leaned into the things. I have friends that went so deep into puzzles, right? That they started like not eating at their huge dining room table anymore because they were doing, 6 foot by 4 foot, huge puzzles. And I mean, that's amazing. Like the idea that we all had need and like really understanding that, like, that it didn't really matter what it was. You just had to figure out a way to be okay,
Yeah. Self-medication. Absolutely. Self-help.
Yeah. And I think that there's, I mean, I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of articles about, like, America's got a drinking problem. And it's like,
yeah,
sure, we probably do. It's been a shit year, guys. Let's, let's, you Puritans.
Well, now is the time where we find out as we crawl out of this. I mean, we're not done with it. I'm not suggesting that. A lot of people still need to be vaccinated and the like. But at least I know in the Chicago area, they've eased up on the restrictions. I've eaten out a couple times. I'm going to go out this Friday. Had a nice 4th of July celebration with my family.
Yeah.
And it was outside, but we were, we weren't social distancing like we probably should, but again, everybody was vaccinated, so
Right. Well, I think
safe.
No, I think there's something to that, and I think that maybe we're hurtling a little bit too much into the I want to we kind of want to pretend like it maybe didn't happen a little too much, and I'm like, I still want to be cautious. There's Lori and I are vaccinated. Our 16-year-old son Ethan is vaccinated. Owen is 11, so he can't get vaccinated for another couple months.
Right.
And today we went for a walk. Owen and I, right as the Kickstarter made, right as we hit our goal.
Good.
I haven't slept well. I haven't, I've had about 2
I can't imagine, Jerry. Absolutely. I'm sure you're just watching that. You're like watching the tote board. It's like,
yeah, well, yeah. And you've got to, and I prepped for it. I got everything ready. I wanted to make the experience as good as I could for everybody, joining me in this insanity.
Yeah.
But around, 3:30 we made the goal. It was 4 hours into this thing and we hit 24,000, and I looked over at Owen, my 11-year-old, and I was like, do you want to go for a walk? And he's like, yes. So we went for a walk downtown and stopped into the Bearded Lady Roasters, our local coffee shop, and we wore masks because, of course he needs, he's not vaccinated at all. And
right.
But
you could be a carrier. Sure.
Yeah. And, but it was really interesting realizing how freeing even that is now, and I do think, unfortunately, Missouri has a lot of growing up to do right now, because we are an example of not trying and not being very careful. And I hope that people are being safe, and I truly hope that those people that have made bad choices don't end up paying for it. But I definitely don't want my family to.
Sure.
And, and my friends. And so we're still being very cautious and stuff like that. But, you're right. It feels really, really good to go and just have some semblance of normalcy. It's incredibly important. And I think we may all be a little bit weirder for it. I'm not sure we know how to talk to each other anymore or anything like that. I think I just look at the floor all the time now.
No, I know. Well, and it's funny. I was literally putting the audio version of Word Balloon out, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be at Terrificon, the end of July, first day in August, 30th through the 1st. Can't wait to see you and shake your hand. I'm like, wait a minute. I guess I won't be shaking your hand.
Right.
I'll fist bump you and wave to you. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what customs come back. And also, as we were saying about, how, maybe everyone's got a drinking problem right now. It's like, we all got, we got used to wearing sweats all day and maybe not showering that day or whatever.
Yeah.
As, Matt Foley would say, living in a van down by the river, because I don't shower. Yeah. It's eventually things will get to some level of normalcy, and we'll see how we all react to it and stuff. It's funny. I applied for a media job. We'll see what happens with it. And I'm like, wow, that's going to be interesting, getting back into a 9 to 5 routine or whatever the hours are. Because, since last April and stuff, I've been doing Word Balloon. That has been my income.
I am incredibly curious about how this is going to shake out. This has been really hard on the restaurant industry. It's been, people, it's been hard to retain people. There's a lot of things.
Sure.
And I know that not everybody, forgive me. Some people immediately jump to, this is the stimulus money. Oh, you got, that 2,000 bullshit. Okay. It's not, that's
bullshit is right.
Yeah. The reality of this is, I think that during COVID, I went from having a guaranteed contracted amount of work. It was going to be a good year. I knew what I was going to get. I was going to be back on top, to having literally nothing, right? And I was smart, and I scrambled, and I did a few things. I took some extra gigs in a couple of places and made some money. I did sketches. I did various things and connected with my audience more. And I learned in that time how little I could live on again. I learned what, we could, and I learned that for me to go back to something, like, I had to be very cautious, because if I went back to something that I wasn't passionate about from here on out, I don't know, I wasn't going to do it. And I think that people are looking at shit jobs and they're saying, like, do I want to go back and work in this bank where I was treated like a peon and not respected and not paid very well, just to be a cog in a wheel? Or they're like, or I can, make epoxy jewelry on Etsy and make a pretty decent living like I already have. And, like, I think that we have to look at that, and I think we have to decide what we want to be. And I hope out of that, maybe, the businesses that they can figure out, like, hey, I need to make this better for the employees. I need to make it, we need to adjust a little bit. Wow, I sound super political with this, and I'm not trying to alienate anybody with it.
I think it is. I think these are economic realities, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. And I agree. And also, in fairness, there probably are people that are like, "Hey, man, I'm sitting on my ass and getting stimulus checks. I don't need to go." There are people like that.
Yeah.
But I do think, I believe in that there are more good people, and agree with you in terms of, no, you're really making hard judgments about. All right, it was okay working in a restaurant, but now it's kind of an added health concern, because I'm living in the petri dish for 8 hours a day, surrounded by other people's germs and contact with them with no choice. And God, Guy Fieri, I like Diners, Drive-In, and Dives. In fact, you and I have been to places that you've discovered because of that show.
Yeah.
But that said, and I don't agree with him all the time, but man, I'm totally on his side when he's like, hey, the government, they bailed out the airline industry, and that's hundreds of thousands of jobs, and that's great. Mm-hmm. There are millions of restaurant jobs, and exactly what has the government done to help those people? And it's so true, and it really is your meals versus, all right, I got to take a flight somewhere. Maybe I don't have to take a flight somewhere. And again, it's really this kind of weird, if you really want to help out one of the necessary working, groups up there, it's the restaurant people, 100%. And truly, Jerry, my dad had restaurants for the last 30 years of his life, and I continue to wonder what he would have thought of these last 16 months. And luckily, he had a great carryout business. It was a pizzeria, and I'm sure he would have done okay and made the adjustments that were necessary. But I can only imagine the stress the poor guy would have gone through living through these 16 months.
No, it's been hard. I mean, and I watched, Joplin is a pretty close-knit community where I live. We're very involved in the local community and the downtown scene. We care a lot about taking care of our city and the growth and preservation of what is here. And it's very, very important to us. We put a lot of our money back into the city, trying to, revitalize the buildings and doing things like that. And I watched how hard it was on our restaurant workers. I watched some of my favorite businesses have to close. I watched people struggle. Yeah. I watched them be incredibly brilliant too, shifting to a carry-out model that was easy and fast. And, and part of that this makes me think of, and whether it's comic shops or restaurants or creatives, your books that you like so much, musicians, your favorite band, right? Like, you're like, I can just listen to that on Spotify. Or you can maybe go ahead and spend the $10 buying the album, because if you want something and if you want to continue having that thing, a comic book, your favorite restaurant, a store, you know, your local comic shop. We saw time and again that it was hard on these people. And if we rallied, if we actually supported them, and I'm not talking about a lot of money, I'm literally talking about deciding that, like, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a sandwich, a carry-out sandwich from the Bruncheonette once a week extra, like once a week.
Yeah.
$7, and I'm going to get this thing. You know, that can be what my freaking stimulus check goes through. I don't care. But like, if that keeps them open so that now when I can go, you know, our friend Kevin Mellon, you know, he and a friend came down from Kansas City. He was in town, and I was able to take them out to the Bruncheonette, one of my favorite local restaurants, for brunch. We sat out on the patio. We had a fantastic meal. We laughed. We had a good time. Lori had a Bloody Mary, and we got a little giggly. It was fantastic, right?
Yeah, man. You feel like it's normal again, and thank God that they survived with us.
Exactly.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I know dude, I'm telling you, I can count on one hand the amount of comic stores that I've gone back to since everything's opened up, and I haven't hit everybody yet, but every time it's like, oh, I'm so glad they're still in business, and I'm so glad that their regular customer base kept them going during this weird time. And also, man, we were saying it earlier in terms of eBay and stuff like that. I am fascinated beyond, and I'm glad that the stores, the local shops were as supported as they were, but the amount of original art that has been bought in the last 16 months, the key issues that people are buying, it's really, man, comics really made a statement in terms of we're not going away. And that's really the biggest onus on that is the readers, because the stores are the middleman that buy the publisher's product, but then it's sitting in the store, and it's really, they always say there's three pieces to the pie. There's the publishers, there's the stores, and there's the fans. But the reality is, you know, the stores are taking the risk of the inventory they buy. So and it's the fans that really do keep the stores going. Yeah. So well, it's great.
Yeah. And I think the fourth piece of the pie, the one that I don't want to get into maybe too much, is the distributor, right?
You're right about that. And I'm shame on me for missing.
No. Yeah. But I mean, I think if you're talking about a true symbiotic relationship, the real relationship is creators and publishers, stores, and fans, right? Like those are the ones that
they make choices.
Publishers
make choices on what books to publish,
right?
Stores make the choice of what books they want to carry in their shop, and readers buy the books. Right, but you're right about the distributors; they're a very important part.
Well, and I think that you know, I don't know. I
was going to say, because honestly, what I have something to say about the publisher or the distributors. No, man, as you said in your video, pencils down, was this domino effect reminding us like how fragile the business is if everybody isn't working and doing the thing. And no disrespect to Diamond, because all of a sudden they had to comply with COVID, you know, protocol. Right. So how many people can they have in the warehouse?
Sure.
All that stuff that every business had to make hard choices on. They needed that 6 weeks to kind of figure out, hey, what are we doing? Right. How do we do this?
I think that the reality there is that out of that, you know, and the margins on comic books are so slim. Lori constantly talks about that. She's like, how the hell do comic shops make it? She comes from a background of interior design, which is lighting and door hardware and cabinets and all this stuff, right? She works in it's a sub area of contract or like construction.
Yes.
And margins aren't always great there either, but it's not floppies, right? And you know, she looks at that and she's like, the margins are so slim. And you know, and it's like, and look, we're all to a degree guilty of it at times. We don't get our pull as fast as we should from the shop. We don't, you know, like we we don't always think, like, oh, hey, I should go ahead and buy this extra trade because it's going to help out a little bit, but I think that as time has gone by over the course of this year, we're seeing fans saying, I want comics, I want entertainment, and I will make sure that it happens. I will support creatives, I will support companies, and I will support shops.
Yep.
Yeah. I watched Hurley's Heroes.
Yeah.
My local shop, and those of you who know Jason Hurley, he is my brother. He is my best friend. That shop is the life's blood of comics in our town, and I truly love it. And I watched, during COVID, things got really tough with the way that they were getting comics, what they could get, how they could get it. There became other like other things that they had, other hoops they had to jump through. And I watched the community say, okay, well, you know what? Like, we're not buying singles right now, but like, we're going to buy more trades from you.
Yep.
How
can we help? Yeah.
Well, or like board games. Like, board games became huge for them.
Yes.
There are these amazing model kits. I think Bandy is. I can't remember.
That sounds right.
Yeah, but like they do like the big the mechs and all this stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the Japanese mechs. Yeah,
yeah,
the robots and everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
They do those, and they went into, so my boys got into those, right? And then so like I started finding, I was like, well, I'm going to go in. There's not a lot of comics that I can get single issues wise, but I can get trades. So I almost caught up on so many things. I bought a lot of things. Let's
no,
say
me
that.
too. Yeah.
But I also got model kits for my boys, and I got board games. You're talking about effects of COVID, and this is a little bit of a segue, but it made me think of it, saying I bought a lot of things. I really got hit by a thing where I couldn't read for a while. That was really weird for me. I think I was just too stressed.
Okay, you couldn't concentrate.
I couldn't concentrate. I
understand. No, it is like that. Sure.
Yeah. But like, I've been a voracious reader since I was. Sorry, I had to turn off the phone.
No,
I've been a voracious reader since I was in third grade. I remember I got the Lord of the Rings in third grade.
Nice.
And never looked back. Never stopped. It was important to who I was my entire life. I had a single mom. We were incredibly poor. I could go to the library. I could see, the worlds of Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey and Stephen King and Clive Barker. I could read, I could read Steinbeck and Irving and all, like I absorbed all of this stuff. My God, finding Robert E. Howard for me was a life changer, right?
Sure.
And then, I'm so busy as a creative, especially when I'm drawing. Well, and you can't read while you're writing, and you can't read. But like I listen to a lot of audiobooks as an artist, right? Which is fantastic. But I don't have a lot of time to read anyway. But I was like, I need to catch up on comics. I need to be, the stack of novels is not getting any smaller, and there are a lot of authors. Nathan Ballingrud, who we read the quote from the beginning of the show, is one of them. I love seeing those turns of phrase. I love seeing what he does. Laird Barron is another one. I love the horror community. I love the things that are coming out right now in short fiction and things like that. It means the world to me. And I couldn't focus. I would sit there and I'd read a page and I'd be like, okay. And then I'd read the page again.
Sure.
And my processors were not working right. And, I was stressed. I was distracted. That's finally changing. That's finally getting better.
Do you think that's why also in terms of making the stories for Haunthology that in fact in the video you mentioned that the first story was only a 3-page story? How long and how short are these stories?
They are 1 to 15 pages. I really look at that handsome dude.
Self-portrait.
Well, a lot of these stories are kind of mildly autobiographical.
I wondered, Jared, one of the images in the video, you see a guy in a fedora with skulls in the background, and I wondered if that was Parks, if that was Andy.
Oh, hell yeah, that was Andy.
All
Parks.
right.
Yeah. I appear in there's two comic creator friends appear in this thing. I'm in there, and then Andy Parks is in it, and Mitch Gerrits is in it.
Oh, that's
both of them, so right after the election, literally, like, I want to say the next day, 2 days after, somewhere in there.
Okay.
I took a writing sabbatical. I had a project that I needed to write on. It needed to be done fast. I needed to get a lot done on it very, very quickly. I needed to be alone. And so I'm going to mess it up. Excelsior Springs, Missouri. I believe that. Forgive me. It's just outside of Kansas City. Okay. There is a hotel called the Elms, and the Elms is a old hotel in this small town that had it was a town with healing waters, right? It was all these sulfur waters and various things.
The mineral waters.
These healing springs.
Sure.
And in fact, actually, the night that Truman, when Truman's holding up the paper,
Dewey defeats Truman. Yes, the wrong headline. Yes.
Yeah. So, election night, Truman went to Excelsior Springs to the Elms. Went there, had a ham sandwich and a glass of buttermilk. Went and sat in one of the spa treatments, and then went to bed early. And he told his security, he said, his Secret Service, he said, if you need me for anything, wake me up. But if not, I want to sleep the night through. And they came pounding on the door saying, you won, because he thought he lost. He wanted to be alone.
Right.
And so they went back, and that paper was the next day, but he spent the night in this hotel. It's a famously it's Jack Dempsey actually practiced there. There were a lot of like athletes would go there, and they would they had the healing springs, but then they would go and they would practice and
cool.
And train. And but it's also a very haunted hotel, supposedly.
Oh, wow.
For a guy that writes a lot of horror stories and loves ghosts and things like that, I'm a non-believer. I apologize to all of you out there.
Anything weird happened while you were there?
God, well, actually, one thing. One thing. But so I went there and I was working, and then Scotty Young joined me there. And
that's great.
So the three of us,
who else? I'm sorry. So you, Scotty, and who?
Scotty and Andy Parks. So
and Andy, great.
So these friends, these Kansas City friends,
came
and we all wrote. They gave us the run of this special area over there. It was one of the bars that kind of goes up, and it's closed throughout the week, so they let us sit in there and write this entire time. So it was Andy and Scotty and I. We were all working on important projects. We wrote in our rooms a little bit. We wrote down there. We took meals together. We kind of hung out. We were still pretty socially distanced because this was, November, right?
Sure.
But we were very safe. But we did this, and it was the best experience. And while I was there, I wrote this story. Sabbatical at the Elms, and I wrote it, and I asked Andy. I was like, "Hey, I want to write a story about a guy that writes spooky stories, and it's effectively me in a lot of ways as a non-believer saying, I go and I write spooky stories. I don't really believe in this shit. And then you see the terror behind Andy, that there is something there, that ghosts are all around him.
Okay.
During this thing. What we did see there, and this is a thing, and Scotty will attest to this. We're sitting there and we're talking, and there was a box of votive candles on the shelf in that library bar area that we were working in. And we're sitting there and we're talking, and there's a weird sound, and the box was sitting up on its side, right? So I'm going to say gravity. As a skeptic, as the Dana Scully of this entire situation, I'm going to say it was gravity. But we hear a weird sound. We look over. The box pops open, and votives pour out of it. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And Scotty's like, oh my God. And, we had a moment there where we're like, well, maybe, but I'm going to need further proof. I need the Ghostbusters experience in order to, have this feel real. But
maybe someone can own a page of that very story, because as you say in the video, all 144 pages of comics each page is available to purchase. I don't know how many have already been sold on your page, your Kickstarter page. I love this.
Amazed.
This is a great page right here.
Let's see that. Yes, that's that one. That's from the first story. That's from Haster. That story, like I said, that was the story that really led to all this. It was the one that showed me the path, I guess you could say. Right?
Were you struggling with that in terms of before you finished it? Like, was it hard to write and draw these because you were also facing the knowledge that a bunch of gigs that you had lined up were no longer there? Or was it great? You knew what you wanted to do and you put it out there.
I mean, up until that moment, it was hell. I mean, I had good gigs with great people, writers and creatives that I absolutely loved. And that everything that I was drawing stopped. I mean, my writing still kept up. Like that was a lifesaver. The Red Mother at Boom. I got the hey, let's hop on the phone from Boom. I was like, shit, okay, this is, they're going to tell me we're hitting the pause button. They didn't.
Wow.
They didn't.
Yeah.
In fact, they said our creatives are more important right now. We're going to lose a little bit of time because of distribution kind of stuff or whatever, but we stand by our creators in this. And, they kept me writing. They kept Danny Luckert drawing and coloring the Red Mother. That was fantastic. Also, at the same time, our good friend Chris Mitten and I worked on 40 Seconds for Comixology.
Yep.
And, Comixology is a purely digital format. And they really, once again, I kind of expected maybe I was going to get a little bit of a, hey, hold on a second, pump the brakes. Not a bit. They actually, they supported us. They took care of us during this process. It was amazing. And I know that it wasn't at every company, but there were blips. There were things that happened. And I don't want to sound like a blame thrower here. I don't want to sound like somebody that's actually like saying this is on a particular company or a particular group. That's not the reality. We all had to deal with crazy shit.
Yeah.
We had to make it through a time that we weren't expecting. To your question, I was pretty frozen by all of that though. I don't think most people understand how much in advance you have to plan your year as a comic creator. If you're writing and drawing, you have to line things up. You have to pitch the project. You have to get the project okayed. You have to get it on the schedule. You have to find the artist. You have to write so much. And, you're talking about like often 3 or 4 months from the time you pitch something to the time it's okayed. And that's just part of it. You get used to that. You understand like,
Sure.
I've got, I just started this 5-issue project, but by the time I finish issue 1, I have to be pitching the next project so that they all fall into place. And it works. But when you have everything locked in for that year and suddenly you have an indeterminate amount of time that things are not going to happen, you have to say, okay, well, I can start the next image book. I can start the next creator-owned thing, but that's literally going to be 4 to 6 months before I even know. And I mean, it was busy. Everybody was doing the best they can. Image was doing the best they can.
Sure.
Haunthology was doing the best they could. So we were having to figure it out as we went. I was frozen, and my response to that was, if I take and I tell a short story, I don't know where it's supposed to go. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I don't give a shit. I want to tell a story because it's a feeling inside of me in this moment. I wanted to tell a story that maybe dealt with a little bit of how I was feeling. I also wanted to tell a story that might connect with a couple people that like if I could just send it to my friends, at first. And then I realized maybe if I just keep telling these, I should do it as my part of my Patreon, and as much as even making a few bucks from Patreon, it truly became a thing where it was like, I'm connecting with that audience that I have been missing. If you love me and love my stuff, you can read a bi-weekly new short story. It might be a page, it might be 5 pages, it might be 7 pages, whatever it is, but you're going to get new stories from me. And people were starving for content during this. There was no other, you couldn't, comic shops were closed. There wasn't anything new coming out. People wanted this stuff.
No, I agree with you, man. Again, not only was Brubaker and Sean busy with what they were doing that eventually would become graphic novels, but also, Brubaker and Marcos Martin had their Panel Syndicate book, and I certainly supported that. Other creators were going to Panel Syndicate, and other digital platforms are doing the freemium thing, like Carl Kerschel was discussing. And it was an interesting time, and people wanted content, and they just wanted to read, and they wanted comics. And again, shops were supported, digital initiatives were supported. And I think it's great because, again, it was, man, and truly that's one of the reasons why I started Word Balloon too. It almost, as being a student of history, it felt like World War II times, where you had the home front and everyone was kind of stuck at home. And it's what can I do to help? And that's why I started doing more video, was like, all right, let me at least entertain the home front while we're all stuck in here, and talk to everybody and, see what they're doing, how they're doing and stuff like that, and connecting. God, thank God it was happening when technology is this easy.
Right.
I can only imagine what the pandemic would have been like back in the 80s when we were still only stuck on our phones. I'm sure our phone bills would have gone through the roof, and fax machines were like the closest thing we had to any sort of digital communication.
Right.
So, again, thank God, we do have this way of speaking to each other and communicating. And it's going to be, again, as we crawl out of it, I don't know if I will, if people will be available for me to do, the 4 or 5 days a week of Word Balloon that I do currently. I don't know. Again, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to help.
I think that,
I don't know.
I think people remember, I think that you were either, some people were problematic during COVID, Some people were just neutral and just doing their thing, and then there were the people that helped, right? And we all did what we could. Like that's but most people were just neutral and just doing, and that's fine.
Sure.
But I think that like people like you that stood up and said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna put myself out there extra. I'm gonna see what happens with it." I think people remember that.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful for the audience that gathers to this day and with this broadcast. And, again, I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to help you with Haunthology right now as it's, day one. And thankfully you made his goal. Do you want to, are there stretch goals you can discuss now, or are you waiting for tomorrow to
oh, no, I'll talk about anything, John. So we just hit, I just refreshed the screen. We just hit $31,220.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah.
So excuse me, because I'm going to start freaking weeping on the show live here. That is unbelievable. This level of support humbles me. Damn, man. I seriously,
I cried a few. Hey, man, I cried a few times when my Patreon subscribers went up and stuff. And no, man, it's very touching to know that there are a community of supporters that like what you do and want to help, and truly are like Mark said earlier. Hey, man, we want to buy the book, so that's fantastic. So, there you go. Thomas wants to know when he can get his coin. So you have it like a Haunthology coin.
Yeah. So who said that? Thomas
Height or Helget. I'm sorry, Thomas. I apologize. Helget.
I love you, Thomas. You're the best.
Here's another one. As you're saying that, Comics, Coffee, and Metal. Congratulations on absolutely destroying your first day. Cannot wait to dig into the book. Very cool.
I don't know. I love you all. You're fantastic. This is the best. So when do you get the coin? Well, guess what? So talking about stretch goals. In the past, like while we were talking, over the past few hours, the first 3 stretch goals were unlocked. I did a paper upgrade because I'm an absolute paper snob. I wanted paper that had tooth, that felt like this book is supposed to feel like a modern take on those old tomes that you would get, right? You'd go and you'd get I remember my grandparents had these beautiful collection books. I mean, everything from, the Reader's Digest collected editions that were kind of weird, but still beautiful in their own way, to these old, beautifully bound leather books. All those things. I wanted it to feel like those books from when I was a kid mixed with a modern aesthetic. So at 27,000, we upgraded the paper. Guess what, everybody? We're getting, it's not matte paper. Now it's wood-free paper, which is kind of a misnomer. It's a process, but it's actually got tooth to it. It's going to look so gorgeous. It's going to feel good in your hands. And then at 30,000, I am a super nerd. I wanted to do the coin of the 4 and 7. So in 2 of the Haunthology stories, this coin appears in really weird places. All of these stories sort of circle the same, I'm such an asshole. I'm going to say it. It's the Hauniverse. If Scott Snyder can do it, or sorry, not Scott Snyder. If the other Snyder, Zack Snyder can do it, I can do it. It's the Hauniverse.
Sure.
But it's this connected thing that I'm doing where a lot of the Red Mother, my boom book, connects to stories in Haunthology.
That's great.
40 Seconds connects to stories in Haunthology. The next 3 creator-owned books that I'm doing literally connect to stories in Haunthology. You don't have to read any of these things. It's not like these are only snippets. These are standalone stories very much, but little bits crossover. And one of the things is this coin.
Okay.
And the coins play a big part in a series that I'm getting ready to do in 2022. But I love old school artifacts.
Oh yeah.
I love real things.
Yeah.
Like you remember like tokens from when you were a kid, right? Like you go and there would be drink tokens or various things. I love that stuff so much. And I love the idea that you can have an experience that's beyond the experience, right? So like you're getting this comic book from me, but I'm giving you a real world item that exists in these stories, but now you can get this as part of our thing. And so the idea is in Haunthology, in the Hauniverse, the 4 and 7 are these old gods and their avatars. So in the Red Mother, one of the 4 is the Red Mother, and one of her avatars of the 7 is Smiley. And so we're seeing all of these other old gods and other avatars and things like that. But for some reason, there's these coins that keep showing up, and they're a currency in the stories, but between these secret kind of groups that they,
sure,
you use the coin for this, you use the coin for this. And I started working with Shire Post Mint, this fantastic, in Northwest Arkansas, there is this, they're coin makers, and they beautifully hand carve coins for their licensed coins for properties. So they did stuff for Lord of the Rings. They did stuff for the Conan franchise. They did stuff for actually recently for American God, licensed coin for American Gods. They did Wednesday's Moon coin, and they did I'm blanking on his damn name.
I won't be able to help you.
The coin that brings Shadow's wife back to life.
Okay, sure.
That gold, the sun coin. But they did those, and I fell in love with the things that these people did. I fell in love with them. I was just like, I love this thing, and so I was like, I'm gonna sink a bunch of my own money in to just get this thing started. I'm gonna take a risk on it, and then if we hit the stretch goal, I was gonna literally dive all in and make more than just a coin for myself. I was gonna make so now these are available. They just unlocked. I just did a 31,000. We just crossed 31,000. I did a PDF pack of fun stuff. It's all of my avatar stuff, but there's literally a mask that you can print out and cut out of the avatar, you can old school make your little mask of it.
Sure.
I've got to color your own mask. I've got coloring sheets, and the PDF pack is actually really cool because I'm just going to keep adding stuff to that. So like you're going to get extra stuff, coloring sheets. You're going to get even like some of my previous works. I'm going to give you the first issues of stuff as PDFs. You can just,
that's great.
You're going to get to have it. You can check those out. If you, the Bad Karma stuff that we did, I'm going to just reissue that as PDFs as part of this. We're coming up to this evening. There's a good chance that we're going to open that 33,000. We're going to get spot gloss on the book and just make it even prettier. It's already a beautiful book. My printer has really worked with me to make things fantastic, and we're just getting more and more. I'm really excited. We've got another enamel pin unlocking, but at 37,000, I'm going to draw I'm going to write and draw an all new story to add to this. More story pages are going to be added, more bonus pages, more content. It's just going to keep going. I've only shown these bonus things through 39,000.
Sure.
I've got stuff planned up through, I think, 70,000 at this point. I didn't really think that was going to happen, but I was like, I need to be aware of it and be, just in case.
Sure.
So I got some shit planned, man.
That's excellent, man. No, and I hear you on the having tokens and tchotchkes from the stories. I think that's fantastic. DC has all the Green Lantern rings and the Flash ring and the Legion flight ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I've hung on to my Flash ring and my Legion flight ring, and every now and then it's like, if only I could put that on and fly away. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
No, it's terrific, man. Dude, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I think it's great. And truly, what a wonderful reinforcement from your audience that they give a damn and they want to support Haunthology. There's 30 days left in the campaign. Again, currently 144 pages. If all goes well, maybe it'll bump up to 160 pages.
Yeah,
that's a good goal to have. And they're really great looking stories. I've got only just a couple of these pages of art, but it'll give you a great reason to know that you're getting a quality book. And yeah, man, like you said, from Red Mother and other great books that you've done in the past, your horror. So I'm glad that you're doing it, and congratulations, and good luck with the next 30 days. It's going to be great. I know you're going to be busy with the Kickstarter and stuff, but always happy to chat, and looking forward to whatever else is new in the future for Jeremy Haun. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it.
As always, man. No, my pleasure. Quick reminders, everybody, as I clean house. I want to remind you again that, first of all, tomorrow night, I'll be talking to Steve Orlando and checking in with Steve and some of his great projects. Ron Mars is going to be on early on Thursday. Also on, I totally forgot, Wednesday, going to have an afternoon Word Balloon live to accommodate Pat Mills' British schedule. He's actually on Spanish time. He's in Spain. But he's got his great sci-fi anthology that he's just put out. We're going to talk about that in the afternoon. Then we'll talk to Steve Orlando. Thursday night, I'll start with Ron Mars, brand new comic book. Looking forward to talk to him about that. Then the premiere, we were doing the To the Outer Limits rewatch. Well, that has ended, but Gabe Hardman wants to stay in the podcast business. And our next venture, and it will be a multi-episode podcast, is Kinescope. And Kinescope is our look at the golden age of television, live TV in all its forms, the anthology shows, the comedies. I even want to suggest that we dip into a little British live TV action as well. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to talking about that with Gabe and Ian Brill and William Meyer. Eventually, I hope Andy Parks will join us for a couple episodes. I don't know if you have any old Kinescope shows that float your boat, Jared, but you're welcome to join us at some point if you're interested.
You do realize I was born in the 70s, right? Not the 40s. No,
I was only born in the 60s, but
I love you. Yeah.
It's great. Honestly, man, the great thing about the live TV era, so many wonderful directors that really made their bones in movies in the 70s started doing live TV in the 50s and 60s. The great Richard Donner, who just passed, started in the early 60s. And John Frankenheimer and Sidney Lumet, Franklin Schaffner, who directed both The Planet of the Apes and also Patton. George Roy Hill, who did The Sting and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. All these directors started in live television. The actors, Jack Lemmon, Paul Newman, James Dean made more live television than movies. He only made 4 movies before he passed away. But thankfully, there's a lot of kinescopes left of a lot of his live television acting. So it's great to see those. And the writers as well. The great Rod Serling made his bones in live television before Twilight Zone. Among others, Patty Chayefsky, the man who gave us Network. So many great writers, so many great producers and directors and actors. It's really fun, and it's going to be great looking at this. And just like The Outer Limits, Gabe's like, would you have any interest in live TV? I'm like, I'm a broadcast nerd. What are you talking about? Of course I do. So that's going to be on Thursday night. Friday afternoon, I'm talking to Michael Jan Friedman, the fantastic comic book writer and a novelist. He has a new collection with his other Crazy 8 publishing collaborators. They have a new anthology of superhero stories. And I can't wait to talk to him about that. I'm going to force a little Star Trek talk out of him because that's what I do. But that's also so very full week on Word Balloon Live. Expect more Terrificon people coming on the show as well to talk about their appearance at Mohegan Sun, and I'll be talking about that as well as we go through July. It's going to be very busy